Hey everybody, and welcome back to RAMBOMANIA. So, David Morrell wrote this awesome little essay, and it accompanies the book in intro and outro fashion, depending on which version you get. It's not long, I think 20 to 30 pages, about 15 to 20 minutes to read. Or if you're like me and like to let it sink in, maybe 30 minutes. Essentially, it's mostly the story behind the story. It's called Rambo and Me. I think it's from late 80 or 90. Maybe. Well, no. Sorry, I'm messing up. I believe it's 2000. Anyway. What can I say? It's a joy of a read. It's presented in dedications to William Tan and Philip Glass, I believe. Each within their own ways. Even though they're the same person. Some of the highlights in this lovely work of labored love. It's a love letter to the fans, and it takes to heart. And it includes some of his early days getting into his writing profession and origins of his writings. No pen name needed persona. It's just really beautiful. There's a few great stories in here, like the poet and the apple story, some political issues, how it was taught in schools, how the films weighed on the book, talks briefly on the films, and the future after First Blood. Just some great stories, bringing up Rambo and Ramboisms in a dictionary, the misinterpretations and misconceptions associated with the character, some prejudicial issues on how people are treated for how they look. A story I can relate to, from my own experiences. People gave Morrell a hard time for having long hair and growing his mustache out. Sorry. Got that constantly myself. And that's something that really hits me, because I don't see how long hair and a beard separate me from everyone else as a person, but I do get a lot of jokes about that, and it's a pet peeve, I should say. Anyway, he speaks about how sometimes randomly on TV or the radio people bring up Rambo and he's taken somewhere else with it, and brings up faith aspect, and like what if it never happened, or this or that. Just great stuff. And how there's no clear hero or villain in the story, and how Teasel wanted a son but couldn't have one, and the connections between the age gap between Rambo and Teasel. It's a pivotal piece of the puzzle, to get really into it. Like the Vietnam versus Korea, and the respects earned and ignored, and the medals. And in the end, how the moral of the story is that nobody wins. So it's very, 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 very elegant, and it's, you gotta pick this up. One story in particular I thought was just beautiful was he was talking about some of the inspiration for the novel, like an origin story, and he was watching the news, and he saw two separate stories that struck him. And the first, a gruesome fight in Vietnam, and the second dealt with the American riots that plagued that year. He thought that if he muted the sound on the television, it could seem almost like it was the same war. Vietnam come to America, vice versa. Sort of, this juxtaposition spawned the gestation of First Blood, and in 1972 it was born. So, this great Vietnam in miniature piece. About how like highly rewarded decorated vet who comes home with all the trimmings of PTSD, who did what was needed, and radically was shunned for it. The disaffected hippie who was the fastest gun in the West. And it goes into real depth, and it's such a treat. So, there's another great true story about some hippies who were kidnapped on the side of the road by cops who had cut their beards and hair and stripped them naked harshly and ditched them on a dirt road, abandoned to walk 30 miles to the nearest town. There's also a story about Rambo's first name that came later when the movie came out, John, when Johnny comes marching home. But there's no J initial, sorry, babe, there's just no J initial to explain the middle name, which we just gotta figure out on the show. It's becoming one of the missions of the show. There's a lot of Reagan talk too. There's a great Troutman Uncle Sam comparison. Complicated, troubled, haunted. It's a great essay that, coincides with the novel, and I highly, highly, highly recommend you pick it up. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. It's fairly cheap. Just go online, pick it up. You can pick up First Blood with it on Kindle, and I believe it would be like maybe $7 in total for both, and it's just really great. So that concludes our First Blood 1972 essay review. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Sharing my thoughts with you. So next week we're gonna come back and get into some other stuff, and I can't wait. So with that, I bid you farewell for now, and keep the peace. Bye.